All right, what is up, traders? What's up, tycoons? Super excited for today's video. We're going to break down TLT. All right, we'll zoom out on a weekly time frame, nice clean chart with just a simple moving average here, and then we'll take a look at a more technical chart on the daily time frame. We're going to do the same thing for TNX. This is going to be your 10-year treasury yield. You need to pay attention to yields if you're trying to trade things like bonds. We'll also do a nice clean weekly chart here. All right, and when we're also going to break down the SPY. Okay, the S&P 500. You can see strong push today. We've got a strong rebound after, one red week, right? The bears were singing hoorah. Everyone was saying it was the end of the market. And I did a really good video showing how, we're making all-time highs across the world, right? We had tech making all-time highs. We had Spain, or France, Italy, India, all these different countries around the world making all-time highs. I mean, you can't scream bearish when everything is making new highs, right? Of course you get a pullback, and we'll see if this is a short-term top or if the market can extend, and we can see if the SPY can actually hit all-time highs, right? That's the one that did not. So we're very close to it. We have CPI tomorrow, so we need to go over some of the key levels so that you guys are ready, you guys are prepared. There's something right here on SPY that we have at the moment that we just had on NVIDIA, and NVIDIA has absolutely skyrocketed, getting very close to the 563 bullish price target that we've gone over in the Discord and on the channel a few times. Now, we'll also take a look at that one on the weekly time frame. And the reason I'm showing you guys these weekly time frames is because there's a really good way to see whether or not something has a green light for longs or a red light for shorts. We'll break that down in today's video. So it's going to be a really good one. Be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. As always, though, the content provided on this channel is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be relied upon as legal, financial, or investment advice. So be sure to read through the disclaimer. And if you're new to the channel, I actually started a completely free newsletter for you guys called Investment Intelligence, giving out free, valuable finance content, free trade ideas. I try to sprinkle in 1 to 2 free trade ideas a week, and this is what they'll look like, right? Highlighting the chart conditions, going over things like patterns, the RSI, moving averages, different things like that, and showing you guys the chart itself so you can see what it is that I'm talking about. And if you go back and review the website, you can see many of the trade ideas from the newsletter have worked out very well. I just sent a new one out today. And the most recent one before that was RTX. And you can see people hitting me up in the Discord saying, hey, my January call options went up 88%. They actually ended up going up higher than that, about 130% last time that I looked. We were able to close out of those for some really nice profits on RTX. Right, so sign up for the newsletter, completely free, or you guys can actually get into the Discord right now for just $1. Right, for $1 for basically celebrating New Year's. I'm letting people get in for just $1 using promo code JAN24, right? And I try to give out some free trade ideas, but the rest of the analysis, all of the other plays that we're in, we those are all posted in the Discord, as well as many other valuable resources and things like that to view gamma levels, dark pool levels, different resources in there. So you can join both of those using the link in the description, and we'll go ahead and get into the video. And what we've got here is our weekly chart for TLT. Now, something that I'm watching to develop, all right, which it may not come to fruition, but this looks a little bit like a left shoulder right here, right? And then we have this V-shaped recovery, all right? And this could be a head. And if we were to pull back near this 10-week moving average, that's what this moving average is. It's the 10-week moving average because we're on a weekly time frame. Somewhere around 92 to 93. And if we were to continue pulling back on TLT and find some support around that area, that's going to be really interesting because that's going to be where the left shoulder is. And if we come down there and we're able to hold some support, we could set up a weekly time frame inverse head and shoulders, and that has a lot of promise to it, right? Now, we have been seeing a significant pullback in TLT, and we went over all of the warning signs, okay? So make sure to subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't, or if you're new, because I really try to put out very good, unbiased technical analysis, right? We've been bullish on TLT. But, with where we're at right here, we had some signs, right? Not only did we have a rounded top after a rounded bottom, aka the Kardashian bottom right here, we broke through our initial bullish divergence trend line, right? So we went over all of the warning signals. We broke the trend line here. We had a bearish MACD crossover right here. There's about 3 or 4 signals saying that TLT could pull back. And sure enough, it did, right? And I know I got in some TLT puts, once we broke down and retested that trend line there, I got into some TLT puts, and those were very nice. They went up about 40 or 50% in just a couple days. Was able to take profit on those. And now, 94.74 is a gap down to fill. Okay, there's a gap. That's what all of these blue boxes are. All right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 gaps down to fill. Right, and we had 2 gaps up to fill over here. Now, the main thing about gaps is you don't know when they're going to fill. So that's the big question. But it's not so much if they're going to fill. Historically, they fill about 90% of the time. Typically, the big question is just when. If you look over here, we had a gap in August, and that gap didn't get filled until December, right? So that took a long time. That took months for that gap to fill. We had a gap here in September, and then that gap ended up filling in November, December as well. So that one took a little bit less time. And now, as I mentioned, we've still got 1, 2, 3, 4 to the downside. Now, we don't have to come all the way down and fill the $85 gap. I'm not trying to scare everyone, okay? That may not happen until the next time we see a large spike in treasury yields. Okay, now we've seen a little bit of a bounce in treasury yields if we take a look at TNX, and we'll break this down a little bit more, but it's not really too much of a surprise, right? And when you look at some of the technical indicators, such as being overbought, and we had this initial bullish divergence trend line, which if you're not familiar with that term, it's nothing scary, right? It's simply when you have a low, and a lower low highlighted by those circles there, and then we have a low, a higher low, and a higher low. So while the price is making lower lows, the RSI is making higher lows. Remember, this is your relative strength index. So we're increasing in relative strength as the price of TLT is going down here. Then we put in a nice Kardashian bottom right here. And we had a very strong rally that really just didn't see any type of pullback, right? I mean, it just consistently held this uptrend almost in a straight line up. And I mentioned that, hey, if we break this bullish divergence trend line, because you can see we bounced on it very nicely here, all right, that's going to be a good opportunity potentially for shorts, right? And if we break this trend line here, that's going to be a good opportunity potentially for shorts as well. And then we also had the rounded top right here. And I mentioned before that when you see the MACD cross below on the daily time frame for TLT, it's been a pretty good sell signal, right? We had one over here, and you can see TLT continue to drop lower. Then we had one over here, and it continued to drop lower. We got one over here, and you can see that it is dropping lower. So how much lower will it go? We don't know. All right, we are basically testing the same level of support here, 96. For 3 trading days, we've tested that level. So we could bounce there, but if we break that, 94.74 is going to be the first target to the downside, and that will be our gap fill. Okay, now TLT can pull back all the way to 89 and still be in healthy retracement territory for a higher low, right? We've got a low now, we've got a high. Even if we were to pull back all the way to 89, that's going to be higher low territory. And then we would look to see if we can establish a higher high somewhere around 101.5 or higher in the future for TLT. Now, I do think it's possible that we can continue lower because of the setup that we had here on TNX. I typically try to look for 1-2 setups. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we had a 1 up, and then this 2 down came down to the 50% retracement level, right? And typically, I'm looking for a 1-2 setup that has a move in one direction and then retraces 50% to 61.8% of that move. That's a really high quality setup because you can manage your risk to reward ratio very well, putting a stop loss shortly below the 61.8% retracement level and look for the move higher. So we have the 1 up, and then you see we have this large red candlestick right here that comes exactly to the 50% retracement level, and then we shoot up afterwards. Now, we haven't really continued momentum in the direction that I thought we would. And if you notice, TLT is basically, as I mentioned, tested the same support level 3 times here, but TNX hasn't broken out. It's actually made a high, lower high, lower high, lower high. So it's made 4 lower highs right here, and it's squeezing right now. So the big question is, why is it squeezing and where is it going to fire to? Well, it's squeezing because we have CPI coming up soon. Okay, we just had a 10-year auction today that came in pretty well actually for the market, and I think that's a reason why we continue to see it kind of drop a little bit lower and kind of consolidate here, because this is how the auction resulted. But ultimately, we're going to see the next move very, very soon. And so I just want you guys to be prepared, right? And kind of know some of the key levels to watch for and understand why things are moving from a technical basis standpoint as well. Now here, as we mentioned, the inverse head and shoulders on TLT, I'm looking to see for a possible head and shoulders setup on TNX, right? If it was to continue rallying and come up near the 10-week moving average, that's going to put it right around 4.2. And that is left, we have a left shoulder there ahead. That's going to be right shoulder territory right there in that area. And so it'll be interesting to see if we do rally up to 4.2, maybe even 4.25. If we reject there and then, TNX continues its downtrend, right? When we talk about the weekly chart and the 10-week moving average, you can see that that's basically your red light or green light, right? As soon as we get above the 10-week moving average here, you can see that we come back and test it as support, rally, come back, test it as support, rally, come back, and then we flush through, and now we've started a downtrend. So if you're ever looking for just something a little bit more simple and you're a little more of a swing trader rather than so much of a day trader, looking at a weekly time frame for a chart, and if you're looking to see whether or not you can go long or looking for an entry, maybe you see something up here and you would look for an entry closer towards that 10-week moving average, and then you can manage your risk pretty well by setting a stop loss shortly below that 10-week moving average, just in case things do try to reverse as they did over here and start a downtrend, right? So a little bit of mean reversion pulling up to the 10-week moving average is nothing to be scared of, right? When we go back to the daily time frame, we talked about 4.2 on the weekly time frame, 4.187, which is very close. Okay, it's about 13 basis points from 4.2. That was initially the target. Now, the first target was 4.1. We did come up there and hit 4.1. And if we exceed 4.1, then we'll be looking at 4.187/4.2 as some upside targets in the TNX, and that would result in something like TLT going down a little bit lower. Now, when it comes to the SPY, right, we talked about the green light signal. Again, this is a weekly time frame with a 10-week moving average, and you can see once we get above it, we come back, test it as support, rally, test it as support, rally, test it as support, and continue rallying. And then here, we break below, right? And, this is your kind of signal right here, like, all right, well, we're rejecting the 10-week. Now we're starting a downtrend, right? And this was that summer period of 2023 when we started to see the market pulling back. And then here recently, after the first week of November, we get back above, and it's been green light ever since there. And we did get a little bit of a pullback, but we're still staying above the 10-week moving average. Now, the 10-week moving average is going to be slightly above 460 right now. If we zoom into a daily time frame, we can see 461.50 is the first Fibonacci retracement level. That lines up very well with that 10-week moving average. So, if CPI comes in hot, okay, and the market does not like it, look to see if we come down to 461.50, right? That's going to be your first kind of key area there. Now, we do have a demand zone shortly below there, right? You can see this period of consolidation here where the market was imbalance and, was agreeing on price. And we were looking to see where that imbalance was going to come from to drive price higher or lower. And obviously it was a demand imbalance. So if we break through that area, we break through 461.50, 460 to about 455 is going to be your demand zone. Okay, and you want to pay attention to see how price reacts there. We may consolidate a little bit. And then just like TLT, there's 1, 2, 3 gaps down on the SPY. Now, these gaps, they may fill in 2024. The big question is when, right? Do we actually exceed higher and create new all-time highs, right? That's the question right now that everyone is wondering. And CPI is pretty much going to be the factor that determines that. So we should know very, very soon. If we take a look, it's no surprise that we got a double top today, especially ahead of CPI. We see that bulls have been rallying here. They held this support level pretty well here, just under 468, right around 467.5. And, that was a good sign. And so from here, what we're looking for, and basically what we're not surprised about is that we made this double top, right? Why is it going to hit all-time highs? And why are people, the sellers that sold over here, why wouldn't they sell again right here the day before CPI, right? The day before a large binary event. But overall, you can see that the bulls really are trying to pick things back up. And so, I think that tomorrow we're either going to hit all-time highs, right? Or we're going to start to begin the pullback, and CPI could be a binary event that causes that. But remember, even if the SPY was to drop, a few percent, 461.50 is going to be your first Fibonacci retracement, your 23.6% retracement. And it's also going to be very close to that 10-week moving average. And we saw that that's an area where market likes to bounce a lot on the weekly time frame. And if we really lose that level, and start trading below there, and we see a couple weekly charts, a couple weekly candles, closing below there, that's going to be a sign that, hey, maybe we're going to start the pullback. There will be support and demand that we already went over. But if we do continue that downtrend on a weekly time frame basis, that's when we may see these gaps down fill around 442, around 432, and around 424. Okay, those are going to be potential targets to the downside. But if we look at our RSI real quick, the RSI is very close to breaking out right now. Now, not everybody likes to use this, right? Technically, this is a bearish divergence, right? We talked about bullish divergence. If we look here, we have a high, then we have high, we have equal high. Well, at those same points, we have a high, we have a lower high, we have a lower high, and we have a lower high. So from a technical analysis standpoint, this is a bearish divergence with a double top potentially trying to form, suggesting that we should pull back. But people, they don't always use these things the right way. All right. What I mean by that is that, we're no longer overbought. So yes, there is a bearish divergence, but the RSI actually has room to run. And it's tested this trend line 4 times now. We've contacted this trend line. The more times you test a level, whether it's a trend line or an area of support or resistance, the weaker it's going to get. So it doesn't mean that we have to break it. But if we were to break it, it could look something like NVIDIA did. Okay, NVIDIA came up here, made a double top with bearish divergence in the past, right? We had a high here, we had another high here, we had a high, lower high, and then look what happened in the past couple of days. It completely broke through that bearish divergence right there, okay, in the overhead supply, which that's what this is going to be right here, okay? Putting a double top, until you break the neckline, which is going to be right around here, it's not so much that a double top has been confirmed, it's just, an area of overhead supply that you're testing again. And so, if the RSI breaks out, it's very possible that we may break through that overhead supply. And NVIDIA is very close now to that 463 price target that we had originally on it as this bull flag here formed. You can see we had the bull flag, we had a nice little breakout, pullback after the breakout, and then we strong push up. And really, once we got above 500, I knew this thing was going to squeeze. All right, it's not really much of a surprise. The very next trading day, we wanted to see if we could hold the close. Right, you can see we opened right above that previous close there, 522. Right, and then continued that strong push to the upside. So that's something that may happen with SPY right here. If CPI comes in good, it could continue a rally. There's been lots of gamma levels around 480. It's been the call wall for a while. If we're able to rally and hold 480 and squeeze, okay, and essentially get a gamma squeeze, it's very possible that SPY can hit like 485 relatively soon. Okay, now, that's the perfect bull scenario, right? The perfect bear scenario, in my opinion, is we break through this double top neckline and we come down to 461.50. All right, so that's the main things that you guys need to pay attention to, need to look at. And again, when we review the weekly time frame chart and we use this 10 moving average as a sign of, hey, can we go in a stock? Should we be buying this, or should we, be waiting for clarity, right? So you can see there's lots of chop in this area. There's a breakout, but because of the chop, maybe you don't want to buy in. And then you see it pulls back to that 10-week moving average. And there you can set a good risk reward ratio, right? This is when NVIDIA was back around 460. And you see it's rallied up almost 100 points since then to 543. So, we just held that 10-week moving average, right? You can see there's little wicks down below it, right? But none of the candles have closed, right? That's another important thing that beginner traders don't understand, is your time frame is very important. Okay, so if you're trading a 5-minute candlestick, you want to see where that 5-minute candlestick closes. If you're trading a weekly candlestick, you need to wait for the weekly candlestick to close, because there's going to be upper wicks, there's going to be lower wicks. It's not very often that you see a candle without any wicks, right? So that pretty much wraps up today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to sign up for that free newsletter. Okay, I just put one out. And there's a lot of things that I'm looking at, so you can expect to see some more trade ideas coming over the next couple weeks. All right, you can also get into the Discord for just $1 right now using promo code JAN24. That will get you into the Discord, so you see all of the different analysis, all of the different stocks that I'm looking at and paying attention to right now in the markets, whether it's crypto, stocks, bonds, commodities even. I tend to look at and trade them all. Appreciate y'all watching, and I'll see you in the next one.